It's Momo Monday, your weekly dose of feline enlightenment and adorable softness. You know what to do. We do our breathing. Breathe in. And out. And breathe in. And out. And as you can see, Scout has definitely elected himself Mini Momo. He is become a student of the master, but Zelda has also decided that she's Momo's BFF. She looks huge in this picture. She's not that big. It's a trick of the camera angle. But as I've been talking about in previous videos, Momo has not been feeling well lately. Momo has an upper respiratory infection that comes from starting off quite rough in life. This is sort of the beginning of the lesson for this week. Yes, a cat made me check myself, and this is why I love Momo. You'll notice he's got some irritation on his eye there. Momo doesn't respond well to stress. And so we've been trying to correct the problem, and it's been just a revolving door of trial and error medications, and he decided he'd had enough. And it was because we were shoving pills down his throat 3 times a week. It was just, it's got to get in there, blunt force it or brute force it. And finally, I was like, I can't do this to this cat anymore. There's got to be a better way. And so I started experimenting with food and trying to find a more gentle, palatable, less unpleasant way to get him this medicine. And finally figured something out. I wouldn't have found that solution had I not paid attention to what my freaking cat was telling me. And that's the lesson, I think, of the week with everything that's been going on, with everybody screaming at each other and trying to force people to become, better people in their eyes, whether objectively someone being shamed into behaviors that they don't necessarily believe in. They're just doing it to avoid a negative reaction. That's, I don't think that's true. I don't think you can force, Clockwork Orange style, someone to believe something. You can't send a message of kindness and inclusion through yelling. You can't. You have to set an example and keep talking. And the people that want to come on board are going to come on board. The people who cannot be convinced cannot be convinced. And you're never gonna have 100% conversion. It is a battle of inches. All this stuff is. And, people are not unlike animals in this way. They respond badly to, how do I put this? Having medicine shoved down their throat. You gotta give them something they enjoy to get the medicine into them. What I learned about trauma and what I learned about post-traumatic, states is that it's not a mental illness in the way most people think about it. It's your physiology telling you there's still something about your life you have to change, and that you're probably scared to change, and so you're stuck. And you're not gonna get out of that place until you figure out what has to change. For me, it's usually the people I associate with. I don't have to accommodate critics. I choose to. I don't have to give haters access to me. I choose to, because I think there's merit in it. I think there's merit in hearing people who don't agree. There's merit even in hearing some people who are just trying to be mean. Expectations and boundaries are critical to overcoming trauma. And trauma is something that can be overcome. Too many people treat PTS like it's just this lifelong thing, right? It's just a thing that will never get better and you're going to be limping around for the rest of your life. That's absolutely not so. You can get your life back. But it's a lot of work. I won't say it's hard because it's tricky. It's finding the answer and doing it. And the reality is that once you find what's going on and what you need to change, it's actually quite easy once you make a commitment to making that change. But what a lot of things do, and certainly things like harassment and bullying and things that seek to strip you of your boundaries and agency, what they do is they convince you that you don't have the power to change your circumstances. And it's a myth. It's a myth. You can change your circumstances, and often you're afraid there's going to be dire consequences for it. And in my experience, those consequences are never as bad as what you're going through, suffering through, whatever indignity you have to change. And overcoming fear is not easy. Overcoming a sense of emotional inertia is not easy, but it is something that you get better at the more you do it. And the first step, like Momo constantly teaches, is that I choose to accept this behavior. I choose to accept this minor annoyance. I choose to accept this thing that I don't like. And that means I can also choose not to accept it. Both choices are valid. And this is a huge part of, I think, what's going on in this post-election collective trauma. We're living in an age of intense hypocrisy. We're living in an age of do as I say, not as I do. And this is what a lot of American voters are responding to. Because we live in a world that is exceptionally intolerant of mistakes and exceptionally intolerant of people who stand up for themselves and try to set boundaries. Because advertisers in the media don't like people with boundaries, but that's a topic for another time. Setting boundaries does not make you popular. And standing up for yourself does not make you a ton of friends. But what it does do is it means that the fights take less out of you and your expectations get more realistic and you become more productive. Trust me. And that is the sense where, and that's the demarcation I make between useful criticism and an attack. So many of us are so wounded from the constant accusations of racism and homophobia and transphobia and sexism and all that stuff that we're less likely to stand up when other people commit bad acts, because it's like, well, people claim I'm a piece of garbage too. Who am I to say? I'm like, I'm not wading into this one. I'm not wading in because people don't want me there. And that sense of what not being wanted is where the various social justice movements have failed. And real effective solutions are more initially resource intensive, I will say. And people think that makes it harder, but it's really not, because you know what? It's slower, and it means you have to have more conversations one-on-one with people, but you actually get something done. You actually move forward instead of being stuck in this echo chamber of screaming and howling and constant battle. And you can't make stuff while you're fighting. Anybody who has played any sort of simulator or any sort of, civilizations type game knows you can't build your society while you're fighting, because all your resources go into the battle, right? You can't build wonders and build new cities and build entertainment complexes for your people while you're constantly having to produce warriors to go out and fight. This is why, the anti-intellectual bent that people take on video games is such a shame, because there's a lot to teach. Video games and cats, are huge sources of wisdom for me. And, coming back in for a landing now, when a cat is smart enough to say, hey, I'm not going to let you shove this pill down my throat. I'm going to retaliate to that because there's a better way, woman. Let's make a deal here. Let's figure this out. Let's figure out a way where I'm not miserable and you get what you want too. The idea that when something in your gut is telling you something is off here, when you really don't like something, that is not a weakness. That is not a failure. That is something in you telling you there is another way. If a word hurts me, it's not that I'm weak. It's not that I have a thin skin. It's that this is not the way you treat people, as far as I'm concerned. And, obviously there are ways of saying you don't like it that are more productive than others, but you don't have to take it. You don't have to take those indignities. You don't have to take those insults. And what I suggest is people like that, if you can, just find people who appreciate you. Spend your time on the people who are, in your corner, not looking to criticize all the time. Because I know I listen more to someone's criticisms when that isn't all they do. Don't listen to the criticisms of a person who doesn't want what's best for you. If someone keeps hurting you, they are not in your corner. They are trying to take something from you, not go on a journey with you. Get them out of your life if you can. I know sometimes you can. It's a teacher or a boss, and there's other ways around that. But the haters, like I said, yeah, there are some people who are really unpleasant on this channel. That's my choice. Why? Because I'm still giving them a chance. Because I see little things that I think maybe this is just either a socialization issue or this is the way they've been talked to. And, they need a little bit of kindness to give them the opportunity to see that there's a better way. Other people, usually the people I get rid of are people who are trying to, make the YouTube bucks through drama. And I have no patience for that. I want to provide a useful service. I want to provide interesting content. And that's probably enough interesting content for the day. So yay, Momo. Momo is wise. I call him Buddha Cat for a reason. So let's close out there with more adorable softness. Breathe in. And out. And breathe in. And out.